What to do when you get an air bubble. Sometimes the feeding bag, the little backpack, will get tipped over or something happens, and as you can see, if it's tipped, it's just sucking the air and it doesn't register it right away. And if it's a small enough air bubble, the pump won't even register it at all. So you can see the air bubble is quite large, much bigger than a couple of inches. If the air bubble is about, an inch, inch and a half, it's fine, it's not going to bother him. But an air bubble this long, probably 10 inches long, would really bother him. So what you do when you get an air bubble like this, it should cause an error message, but it doesn't always. Like it didn't in this case. I guess it just wasn't quite big enough. So that, as you can see, it's maybe even 12 inches long. That's a big problem for Simon. So what you would want to do in that case is pause it, pause the feeding, and then say you're out and about, you're on the playground or you're somewhere that you can't, you don't have a sink. Just open up the bag, hold the disconnect Simon and just put this end in the bag, and then you can see the air bubble is kind of halfway down the tubing at the moment. So you just sort of watch it and you just prime the air bubble out. So it's a bit hard to see because of all this white, all this tubing. But I'm just going to hold down the prime button and watch until the air bubble is completely gone. Takes a few minutes usually, but it's a nice trick if you don't have access to a sink or you don't want to run back inside if you're outside. And when the air bubble gets closer to the end, it should be easier to see what I mean by getting it out completely. So now there's the beginning of the air bubble right there. I'm not intentionally letting my hand off the prime button, it's just kind of tricky. So, there's about half of the air bubble, and then we can see that is the end of it. So by the time that bit gets to the very end of the tubing, we can just go back to feeding him. And you don't want to clear out the volume total after this, because then he would be administered too much of a feed. So you see, I just closed the clamp after I got the air bubble out. Now we're back to just formula in the tubing, which is what we want. You just close this again, and you can resume the feeding after he's connected again.